It's crazy to think that Tomboy was 3 years ago at this point. It was such a stark change for this group, both in terms of sound and of course, the group's composition. i-dle was really able to leverage what was maybe one of the most difficult moments of their career to catapult them to the very front of the current generation of K-pop. They now represent a core tenet of today's industry that is clearly not easy to replicate. Not many groups have even tried to follow in i-dle's footsteps, a group who has taken up charge to speak on social issues in the society they live in, but i-dle is importantly still also a group who reveres the more eccentric side of pop music. In fact, i-dle seems to take a great interest in frequently blending these two ideas together, social issues that are discussed through often larger-than-life exaggerated production features, whether that be the music itself or its songwriting. The end products of this are quite divisive releases, such as none other than the pre-release single Wife ahead of their second full album. i-dle is, in many ways, the principal battleground for a lot of people when it comes to the conversation about lyricism in K-pop, which, as more time goes on, I think is starting to become a little unfair or unfounded. In conversations like these as it relates to i-dle, people tend to neglect songs like Fate from their last full-length album, a song that topped the charts largely due to its songwriting. i-dle has the potential to tap into impeccable writing, but there's a very deliberate effort to forego this on certain songs for the purposes of artistic expression. This is a well-established hallmark of their artistry at this point, and given Girlfriend's songwriting, it is not something that seems to be going away anytime soon. Girlfriend, Fate, and Wife are all written by the same people. It's Soyeon, Poptime, Daily, and Likey. i-dle is no doubt fully aware of the issues some people have with songwriting, but pursues this as a part of their artistic identity anyways. I know it's not for everyone, but it is for me, and I consider what they do incredibly admirable. The lyrics on songs like Tomboy, Queen Card, and Wife elicit such strong reactions from people. The conversation very rarely stops at, quote, this song isn't for me, I wish the songwriting was better. No, it very often goes into odd questions about the validity of Soyeon being a producer in any capacity. People get angry about songwriting. It is a problem that K-pop is no doubt going to have to address eventually. The silver lining here that I see is that I believe some groups are going to rise to the occasion and address this issue, but some groups like i-dle will most likely not do so fully. Where I stand in all of this is that I don't believe it makes i-dle any less of an artist that they don't decide to incorporate impeccable songwriting for every single song. I believe there is value in cringy, ungrammatical, and often nonsensical lyrics. There is a solid narrative to a song like Wife exactly as it is, regardless of how anyone feels about its lyricism. We can have a discussion about how the songwriting could have been better, how it's not to your own personal tastes, but that should not diminish the songwriting as it is right now. Wife's songwriting is not objectively bad. I will never budge on this. Nothing in music is objectively bad, but we so often hold conversations as if this is a thing that we can say, that a song is objectively bad. I believe you don't have to deny a song's right to exist as it is to express how you believe it could have been better. i-dle are artists in their own right, one of the most prominent groups who have full control over their expression, and all of these ideas lead me to Girlfriend, the pre-release ahead of their upcoming album titled We Are. This song and album of course marks a significant rebrand for the group off the heels of their contract renewals with Cube Entertainment, symbolized by an asterisk with one of its strikes missing. Curious, I was one of the people who fully thought Soojin was coming back. I was very, very hopeful, but unfortunately that is not how things worked out. Girlfriend feels like a very nice summary of everything i-dle has done up until this point. There's pop rock elements reminiscent of Tomboy, a steady sense of optimism in the verses that reminds me of the progression on a song like Dum Dee Dum Dee. We have elements of Nude and Queen Card via the songwriting. It feels like a capstone moment sonically for a genuine capstone moment in i-dle's career. It narratively takes on social issues in a similar way to Wife, but not as deliberately this time, and I think that is for a reason. The very premise of i-dle making a song about congratulating a girl for leaving a relationship with a bad boyfriend being at all social or politically charged seems to suggest that there is still a lot more work to do. So as long as i-dle is one of the most prominent girl groups in the industry, I think they can continue to make a lot of social change with their platform just by simply making music that discusses and normalizes these ideas. And here is where I believe the songwriting comes in. The song's main hook and leading narrative, quote, your girlfriend is better than a boyfriend, is sung in a cheerful way or like an optimistic way to sort of rally the subject to the fact that she can find better friendship and camaraderie among friends, but it's also quick enough in its delivery to seem like a teasing sentiment. universally, a girlfriend is better than a boyfriend, which I'm sure will upset a lot of people, but importantly, it's written and delivered in a way that taunts people who would perceive a song like this or wife in an inherently political way. I already see people concerned about the songwriting in a similar way to wife, and so once again, you can still believe the songwriting is poor while also recognizing that it may be written in a way that intends to elicit such a reaction from people who listen to it. Now, does that justify the songwriting being what it is? Who is to say is the hat that I throw into the ring. It works for me, I appreciate it for what it is, and I find i-dle's breaking of the English language to be inherently valuable towards the messages of their songs, but me saying that isn't me declaring war on prescriptive writing, even though, as someone who studies linguistics, I do think prescriptivists need to be dealt with in some capacity. Enough with the objectively bad rhetoric. If wife or girlfriend had better songwriting from a more objective, like poetic standpoint, would it be more effective at what it sets out to do? Maybe, but also maybe they're currently in their most effective form right now. Who is to say? Who has the power to actually prescribe what songwriting should not look like? This is the beauty of nuanced discussions about art. Maybe one day we'll get there. i-dle is incredible when it comes to crafting an atmosphere in their music, and lyrics and delivery play a huge part in that. The lyrics of Wife and the way they're delivered express a feeling of genuine anger that goes unaddressed. I think that's fully on purpose for narrative reasons, and frankly, the lyrics being exactly what they are do an incredible amount of work to add that dimension to this song. Not everybody has to agree with that, and of course, it's not going to resonate with people in the same exact way. I have no interest in discouraging people from criticizing songwriting from a subjective standpoint, but I'm walking on thin lines with the objectively bad arguments. We keep having the same conversations, it seems. There is nuance to everything. I'm not being waffly, it's being reasonable about this. Girlfriend in turn works to provide a feeling of cathartic release. Free from the shackles of a toxic relationship, we're now all people who can turn to their friends, turn to the people in our lives who see us for who we truly are and find solace in the value we understand of ourselves. What a great message to start off this new album and this new era of i-dle. It sounds like a good way to introduce this new era for the group, reminiscent of what they've done before, but adapted in a way that presents something new. I will say, we can talk about the lyrics subjectively, and we can talk about the song duration subjectively. This song is not long enough. I know i-dle has kind of been ahead of the curve in terms of short songs. They've been doing it for a while, but there's usually been some kind of trade-off for missing song sections in the past. For example, I think the final breakdown of Queen Card helps round it out in a way that justifies it being on the shorter side. Girlfriend, composition-wise, feels like it's missing something. Maybe the album will help round it out in some way, but alone as a single by itself feels a little underwhelming in that regard. But overall, I like it. I really, really like it. I'm excited for this album and the overall narrative it's intending to portray. It does seem like the songs will be connected in some way towards a universal idea, kind of like what we saw with the I Feel album. Yeah, this is what I think. Please let me know what you think about this. I know I went on a tangent about lyrics, but if you have anything critical to say about the writing on this song or when it comes to i-dle in general, please feel free to do so. I don't want to discourage anyone from expressing a different opinion. I'm just growing a little tired of the objectively bad angle people keep bringing to these discussions. Explain why you don't like the writing. Anyways, thank you for watching this. If you did, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.